Oh, such a good girl. Such a good girl. What? What? That good girl. Oh, what was that? What was that, Roxy? No? Right. Tea. I need tea. Right.
Hi, Tina. I can see that you've connected, but could you switch your video off for us, please?
Start video. Start video.
Better?
Here we go.
Now then, seem to have a few people missing, so we'll give them a couple of minutes. How are you? Oh, you've gone collected.
Okay, are we on mute now? Okay, I will say I've got a really unstable internet connection, so I might drop out from time to time. There's some really young teams at work this week where I just keep pitching.
Your video's gone still, so I can see that you're having trouble. I think we might have lost you completely. Oh, you're back. It's a pain in the backside, isn't it? Yeah. We're all suffering from it. I didn't think I was on a Zoom call to a Facebook Live to America yesterday. And at the last minute, right before we started it, it looked like we weren't going to be able to do it. And then suddenly we both were okay. I can read you things. Well done. So where is everybody? Late for Christmas, I think. Let's have a look. Who was supposed to have? I'm just going to make a start anyway, because they can always watch the videos back, can't they?
Rox has gone out for a wee. She might be a while.
So Roxy and Roxy, yeah. How did you get on over Christmas? Anything exciting?
She gets really hot and agitated at my dad's, and we spent quite a bit of time there because obviously it's a bigger house and they're like my support bubble. And yeah, he's like deaf and he has the heating so loud, like high. The telly's on loud, so she kept like getting really agitated. So I had to keep putting her in like the lobby where with like her bed to get her cooled down and have a bit of space away from the noise. So I'm trying to limit time there, which is hard. Because if he's like not asking us to go there, he's here and he riles her up something chronic. Despite me saying like, can you not? Like, you don't have to entertain her all the time, because the more you rile her up, the more it like the higher and higher she gets, and then you complain that she's bitey, and I don't want her bitey, and she's specifically quite bitey at the minute for whatever reason. I'm guessing her teeth are bothering her. So we've had a few, and she can get quite growly as well. Like when I put a harness on, she was getting really bad, and I went to the pet shop. We bought her original harness from her, Easy Dog one, and despite them telling me, oh yeah, it's fine, like she's got loads of growing room, it was like folding over behind her shoulders, so it was like a bit like that behind her shoulders. So I've bought a different one, which has got a bit of padding. It's a halty one with a front and a back D-ring. And she seems to get, once it's on, she's fine. She loves it. But getting it on is like another whole thing. She growls a lot at my little boy as well. Like whenever he goes to like touch her under her out, like if he goes to pick her up, she just growls at him. So I'm a bit like whether it's just another phase that we've just got to get through, or whether there's something more. And like we've been really good, like the new harness, we sort of let her smell it, we treated, she like dragged it off for a bit, we called her back, treated her, like we haven't just whacked it on her head. But she walks a lot better when she's out and she's got it on. It's just getting it on like nicely.
I didn't mean to unmute you again. I was just, I didn't see you'd done it. So yeah, I mean, it is normal for all puppies to learn to say that they dislike something. You know, we want to give these dogs a voice. We want to be able to have them say something's uncomfortable, I don't like it. Growling is not a bad thing. Okay, I don't want you to think of growling as a bad thing. I don't want you to think of wanting to stop it, because growling is information. Growling is telling you that whatever you're doing is an uncomfortable thing. So it's actually, be grateful for the growl, yeah, because it means that she's not having to bite. But what it does tell us is that she's still uncomfortable with those things that you're trying to do. And we do need to help her to feel more comfortable and to feel safer and to choose. Somebody's making horrible noises behind me. What have you got? If you're going to chew it, you're going to have to chew it outside. She's found a piece of bone left over. Can you take that out there? Yeah, can have a bed. Can have a bed out there to lay on. Yeah. Here we go. Stay there. So how do we get them to feel more comfortable? Well, it's about choice, and it's awkward for us because we want to get on with stuff and we want to get it done quick, fast. So there's two different versions of. One is the it's going to happen and you're going to have to just deal with it version. Yeah. And I want you to make that picture look very different from your training version. All right. So with the harness, for example, when you're definitely going to put it on, regardless of what she says, then we're going to do it in a certain place in the house. And when we're doing a training session, we're going to do it in an entirely different way. And the two give her the idea this time, I can say no. And if I say no, nothing's going to happen in the training version. But if I say yes, there's going to be a significant reward. So there's a good reason for me to choose to allow it to happen. All right. In the it's going to happen version, the bish bash bosh version, you're going to just go for it. Now, the more different you can make those two pictures look from the dog's point of view, the better. So a really good example of this, and it's quite a good story, I guess. We were at the zoo watching the lion trainers, and they were training on this particular occasion. The issue was that the lions were getting overexcited when they thought there was going to be a training session, even though there wasn't a training session. And they were getting angry, and they were potentially risking starting fights between each other because they were getting overexcited. And Chirag Patel was the trainer that we were with that was talking us through it. And he was saying, well, what ideas would you lot come up with? And in the end, the idea was, if it's a training session, then the trainer wears a particular color hat. And if it's not a training session, they wear a different color hat or no hat at all. And the reason that's important is if your dog knows that this is a bish bash bosh session, yes, it might upset them, but it's just going to happen. At least you know that that's not messing up your teaching part of teaching them to accept it. Yeah? Because if they're not sure, it's that unpredictability, it's that not being sure whether or not it just is going to happen or whether or not it's going to be something that's fun and I'm going to enjoy it, which hopefully a training session will be. Okay, then what I would do with teaching it, making it the training session, is we're going to think about the words choice and marking correct choices and rewarding correct choices. And we're going to call this is a game, if you want to look it up, this is a game called the start button. So start button, there's I can't remember the names of the girls. One of them's called Emil. I'll try and find it. I think I have put a link to a start button procedure. And Twiggy's particularly good at this because she does like her clicker style training. Doesn't have to be a clicker, your marker can be a verbal. And what we're going to do first of all is the first thing I would need for putting a harness on would be stillness, okay? And let me get you where you can hopefully see a bit better. Ooh, she says. This is where I drop you. Can't see any better there, can you? That's no good. Oh my heavens. Right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for assisting with your nose. It's awfully kind of you. Right. So, it's not much better, but it'll do. I've got a clicker as my marker, but your marker can be yes or a verbal marker. All right. And the first thing I want is stillness. Now, what you can do for stillness to make it easier for your puppy is have a thing for them to put their feet on. It just gives them an idea. This is where I need to keep my feet. And that thing doesn't matter what it is at all. But on this occasion, for you, do with the angle being lower so you can see the floor, but the phone doesn't want to go there. A bit better. For this one, we've got a piece of paper. So, if she puts her feet on the paper, I'm going to mark and reward. Okay? Bit awkward with it being a bit of paper. I quite like things like cake jars or a little stool, something that's not very high. Yeah? She's not going to put feet on it. You're not going to do that, are you? We'll give you something else, something a bit easier. Something just to keep the front feet still. All right? So if you can turn around that way, then they'll be able to see you. That's it. So the first thing I want is stillness with their front feet still. And I'm going to mark and reward stillness. All right. Once your dog's getting pretty good at holding still, then we're going to do a little movement, but not touching. Little movement. And as you move, if they're still, you mark and reward. So if you're doing the harness, this would be the point at which the harness would come from behind your back. You'd show them the harness, and if they could stay still while the harness was on view, then you would mark and reward. Then you're going to touch them with the harness. If they're still, you mark and reward. Okay? So the dog chooses. Now at any point she can get off, she doesn't have to stay there. So for Twiggy, bring her over here so you can see. The main reason I used this training was quick pause on there. Yeah. The main reason I used this training was she hated having her ears touched. So now we can keep still. And can you have my hand near your ear? You can. And can you have my hand? And if she wants to go away, that's fine. I go back to keeping my hand still. Can you let me grab your ear while you stay still? You can. Yeah. So we slowly build up, asking the dog, can you cope with this? Yeah. If they can't cope, then you're going too quick for them. But they must be allowed to say no. They must be allowed to move away. From the dog's point of view, moving away means that you get no reward. So they're going to want to hold on and choose to gain that reward. So it means that they push themselves through that thing that's worrying them. Does that make sense? I know it sounds a bit complicated, but the first you break it right down. Break it right down to, can you be still? Can you be still while the harness is on view, but it's at a distance from you? Can you be still while the harness is a little bit closer? Can you be still while I touch you with the harness? Yeah. Can you be still if it's one that has to go over the head? Can you be still while it comes towards your face? Can you be still while it goes over the top of your head? Yeah, so you're asking at each point. The dog says, no, that's fine. You know then at that point, you've gone too big a step. Whatever it was, whatever that last question was, it was too big a step for the dog. So you need to put littler steps in, littler stages, okay? And this is for any handling situation where the dog's uncomfortable with that process. What I want you to do is make as many steps as you feel is necessary and then start adding more steps in if you need to. All right. So, but today, is there any questions about that? Do you understand it, first of all? Does it make sense? Now, I know that in real life, you know, you're not going to have time to do training, but it feels like it would take hours and hours, doesn't it? But actually, 5 minutes a day of just doing, there's lots of different names for it. I like the version that Emil and this other girl, and if I remember, I'll find the link. I like their way of explaining it, start button training. But there's also, it's your choice, some of the trainers call it. It's your choice. The dog chooses whether or not to put themselves into that situation, and it's a much stronger way of training because it's their choice, basically. All right, but this week we're talking about teaching go to your bed and stay on your bed, and the difference between what we call the cue stay and what we call the cue wait. Okay, and then we're also going to talk about the importance of making sure your dog knows when you're finished, because I think one of the things that we are very, very good at is accidentally teaching our dogs to ignore us, because they're not sure whether or not we want their attention anyway, so they might as well just carry on doing what they're doing. So for this, it'd be best if you have a bed that you can use, because we're going to teach go to your bed first. All right, and I know we've kind of done this already. I think we've kind of done this already. Just remind me. Thumbs up if we have. Go to your bed. Do you remember? Yes-ish, no-ish. Okay. No, that's all right. That's good, because it means that I can do it without worrying that I've already gone over it. So here we out a bed. I just need some more rewards because I'm kind of running out. There you go. Okay, so what I want you to do, to begin with, we're going to use law, which means food in the hand. We're going to put it on the nose. We're going to take that nose all the way to the bed, and we're going to put the food onto the bed. And we're going to take our hand away. Okay? The puppy will get back off the bed because they just will. We're going to take the food, we're going to lower all the way, and we're going to place the food onto the bed. So they're taking the food from the bed, not from our hand. Okay? When they've done that a few times, 2 or 3 times, then we're going to make it a little bit harder. You don't need to put the feet on. Okay? Now what I want you to do, so we're adding the cue. You're going to call it whatever you like. You can call it on your bed or on your mat, or, you know, you can call it, put your pajamas on, I don't care. What you're going to do is put the lure on the nose, but then move it away from the nose and point in the direction that you want them to go. And at the same time say, on your bed. And go all the way with them and put that food on the bed. So we're not changing the picture too much for them. We're just making sure we get that cue in before we start moving. So I'm going to point, I'm going to say on your bed, and then I'm going to move with the dog all the way to the bed and put the food onto the bed. Okay, beautiful. And they're going to get off because they just do. So we're not going to worry about that bit at the moment. We're going to stand still, say your cue, show your cue, and then start moving on your bed. And what should start to happen is your dog should start to put 2 and 2 together, and they should start to move slightly ahead of you towards that bed. Okay, so you should see them start to put 2 and 2 together. But we need to go all the way with them at the moment to finish that behavior. All right? On your bed. As they start to predict that that's where the food is going to be, so they start to move ahead of you, then what you're going to do is you're going to slow yourself down a bit so that you're letting them lead you there. So you're going to stay on your bed, and then you start moving to join them. And the food keeps going onto the bed. That's it. Don't worry if they don't go yet, because it's not a habit that they understand yet. You just take them all the way there and finish that behavior for them. All right? So it takes them a while to put 2 and 2 together, but eventually you're going to be able to stay where you are, give your cue and your visual cue, point to the bed, and then they get there first, and then you move to join them. All right, but it takes a while for that to start to develop. So don't worry if you're having to go all the way and finish that behavior off. Now, at some point, what you might find is that your puppy is reluctant to get back off the bed, because now that's where the rewards have been going, you know, so they're not going to want to get off it because that's where the next reward's going to go. And that's fine, because we want them to think that staying on the bed is a really, really good idea, don't we? But we're going to practice a release cue now to tell them that exercise, that staying on the bed bit, is over. All right, so we're going to have 2 cues. One is on your bed, and that's going to get rewarded. And then we're going to tell them that they're allowed to get off. So off, and that's rewarded over there. Throw a piece of food over there. Okay, are you ready? On your bed. and off. Okay. So a release cue is either a cue to do something else or a cue that what you're doing at the moment is over. So some people call it finished, or you can say go do dog stuff, off you go, you know, go relax. It's a bit like when the guys are in the army doing their marching practice and then they have their at ease. Yeah. So at ease, but it tells them marching practice is over, or this particular training session for the dog is over, and you can go be a dog. You don't have to pay attention to me. Now, it's really important that we give release cues, because if we don't give release cues, the dog doesn't know that that behavior is able to be stopped, and it leaves them with this not knowing, and eventually they'll break whatever that behavior is. You know, they'll get up and they'll start moving. If we're teaching a downstay, the dog doesn't know when that downstay session, training session is over, they're going to get up and they're going to move. In which case, they're not learning to stay. They're learning to guess when to stay till. And it's all a bit wishy-washy. Does that make sense? All right, so we've got go-to bed. Now we need to help them to want to stay there. Yeah. So, ready? She's on a bed already. Come here. Go to bed. I'm going to go to her. I'm going to place a piece of food right down between her feet. I'm not going to move away from her. I'm going to get another piece before she gets up, before she thinks about moving. So with your puppy, you're going to find that that's one treat every 1 to 2 seconds maximum. We don't want them to keep thinking that they have to get up. We're going to stand right next to them. We're going to keep rewarding them. Okay? We're not moving anywhere at all. We're keeping our body language quite quiet. So we're not talking to them. We're not looking at them. We're not moving our hands around. We're just going to keep dropping bits of food. What I want you to do is I want you to start counting between drops. Okay? If your puppy is not moving, not looking like they're going to get up, not looking like they're going to get off the bed, then you can continue to add a little bit of extra time. But if they keep jiffling about and moving, that tells us that we need to lower the time. And just sometimes we go a little bit higher, sometimes we go a bit lower. Okay, so we've got 1 good dog, 2 good dog, 3 good dog reward, 1 good dog, 2 good dog, 3 good dog, 4 good dog reward, 1 good dog, 2 good dog. And sometimes I'm going to throw a reward in at a lower time. Okay, my aim is to go up and down around the average time that I'm working at. So if I'm working at 10 seconds being my goal, sometimes I'm going to go to 12 or 13 seconds, but sometimes I'm going to reward at 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. So the dog is guessing when the next reward's coming. And we work up to the point at which we can count really good 10 safe seconds between rewards before we make it more difficult. So that means that your dog can actually do 12 to 15 seconds, but you know that you're definitely safe at the 10-second stage. If they're not at 10 seconds, we're not going to go to the next stage. All right? So the next stage would be staying right next to your dog, but adding a little bit of movement while you're doing your count and then reward. So we're teaching them, even if I'm looking exciting, even if I'm wafting my hands about, even if I'm talking, even if I move a little bit, but I stay at the same distance, we're going to maintain the same 10 seconds average. So we're not increasing the time. What we're increasing at this point is the distractions. Okay, so we are adding distractions. And anyway, it makes for a really good video when you get to this point and I've got all my owners dancing next to their dogs. Yeah? So keeping your 10-second average once you've got to your 10-second average. Don't start adding distractions if you haven't got to that good 10 seconds. Dog understands, just stay on the bed while the owner's there. Okay? You can build that up, so we're not going away from the bed. We're going to start doing things like moving around them in a circle in our time limit of 10 seconds. Yeah? When you've got that, and you can do all sorts of silly things at 10 seconds, keep the same distance, but now I want you to slowly increase the time again. Okay? So we're going to be able to stand next to them. So if you were doing this at home, in real life, for example, you could have them while you're preparing your meal. You could have them right next to you, right next to the cooker, and you could be counting in your head while you're chopping up your bits and rewarding them so that that distraction of you preparing food could be your dance moves. Does that make sense? Thumbs up to me if you're following me, all right? Yeah? Okay. So once you've got, now we're slowly building the time, we're keeping the distractions going, slowly building time. Once you've got a good average 20 seconds, then you can increase distance by one whole step, no further than that. Okay. Once you've got that distance increased, then you can start slowly building up distractions at that distance. Yeah? So we can start doing sillies over here. And again, if you're working in the kitchen and you're trying to teach them to stay on their bed while you're cooking or preparing dinner, then you would move the bed a little bit of a distance further away. This is a really good game to play with things like answering the door. So you can't see the door at the minute, we'll move the door that way. All right, so for example, if you've got a dog who gets excited by the door, what you could do is your distraction movement could be going to the door and opening it slightly, coming back and rewarding your dog for maintaining that stay on the bed, even when the door is being opened. Yeah? You could add other distractions. So there you go. And maybe distractions too hard. There girls. Maybe distractions too hard for Twiggy. On your bed. On your bed. Thank you. Lay down. Down. So working them up to being able to cope with things that are difficult for them. Okay, so that's something I haven't practiced. But I can practice them being together next to each other on the bed. All right, and we can practice, can they both maintain that position while the door opens? All right, so I want you to think, when you're making yourself a little plan of how you're going to train something, think about with the downstay, breaking it into those 3 separate things. First of all, it's duration, so the length of time that you're going to expect that behavior to happen. The next one is distance. Sorry, first one's distractions, being able to maintain that length of time in spite of what's going on around you. And the next one is distance. So the distance at which they are away from those things that are going to be distracting to them. Does that make sense? And when you're changing one part of the picture, don't be changing the other parts at the same time. So slowly build up your dog's ability to ignore one thing before, or to cope with one thing before you then add more complicated sort of bits to it. So it does mean with puppies to begin with, you can't really do a lot while you're teaching them to stay in their bed, because they're not ready for it. They haven't practiced it, so they're not going to be able to cope with it. And it does mean spending some time. But I have to say, it's one of the games that you can practice your real life while you're doing it, because you can use... You are some noisy girl. Yeah. In there. Does anyone want a little old dog? I've got a spare one. You can practice it using your real life as the distraction. So having visitors when we're allowed to have them, or family members that are allowed to come into your home. You can practice getting that person to sit still on the sofa while you practice doing your stay on your bed, and then you can practice that person becoming more animated while your puppy practices stay on your bed, and then you can practice that person moving around while you practice puppy stays on the bed. So making steps and stages to a little plan of how to teach your puppy to cope, so that you're not getting into the habit, because we are human, we will get into the habit of something goes wrong and then we try and fix it. Try and plan ahead instead. Try and plan ahead. How am I going to cook a quiche while there's a puppy in the kitchen? And how can I plan to train those stages? Yeah, so you can see you're already getting a decent distance. Oh, Roxy. So what the aim is here is not for her to keep getting it wrong. All right, if you keep increasing the difficulty and she keeps getting off the bed and moving, then she's practicing getting off the bed. Yeah, the aim is to keep her at the level at which she is perfect, and then stretch it by a tiny bit. Yeah, so she's not likely. So try and get that reward in before she gets it wrong. So we slowly creeping what they can cope with, what they're able to do. Yeah, so demo with Twiggy and Maybe, me opening the door and letting Maybe in. That's me showing you that if you take it too far, too fast, they're not going to cope. They're going to get it wrong. They're going to get upset. All right. So little tiny dance right where you are for Roxy. Yeah, don't go too much, and reward her quick before. So if you watch your dog, and I know that you want to watch me and watch the video as well, but they give it away. When they're about to move, they won't just move their legs first. They will move their ears first. They will move their head. They'll give a little twitch. So look for those little intentions to move, those little body signals that they're thinking about moving, and get in there before their body starts to move. Yeah. Nice. Okay, beautiful. All right, so take a rest, because it's hard work, and I want you to tell her off your bed or off you go, or something that tells her we're all finished, now you can come and get off your bed. So we're not just walking away from them, leaving them there wondering what they're supposed to do next, because if they practice, oh well, obviously the exercise is over. Well, what if it wasn't? What if your intention in your brain, and remember they can't read your brain, they don't know what's going on inside your head, but what if inside your head you thought that they got it and that they were just going to stay there and you could go off and answer the phone or answer the door or whatever, and then suddenly you've got a dog following you and is next to you, and that's going to make you frustrated because you thought that you'd taught them to stay on the bed, and actually what you had forgotten to teach them was when the exercise is over, when it's safe to get off. Happy? Do you understand where we're going? Does it? I know it's not easy because it takes a while to practice, and especially if you've got busy puppies who are movement style puppies, you know, it's much easier. I always think when we're training the really big breeds, the heavy breeds like the Bernard puppies and the Newfoundland puppies, they're brilliant at downstay, you know, because once they're there, it's hard work getting up and moving. Whereas your Spaniels and your busier breeds, getting them to stay still and learn to stay still in one spot, it doesn't make sense to their brain. Their brain is a fuzzy brain. It's a busy brain. It's all over the place. So teaching them stillness it needs smaller steps, more frequent reinforcement, more understanding of the fact that it's harder for them. Yeah. All right. So what's the difference between stay and wait? Yeah. What's the difference between stay and wait? Well, we tend to use them interchangeably, and I think that's a bit unfair on the dog, because what it should mean in my mind is when I ask you to stay, I don't want you to move from that position until I tell you to do something else instead. Whereas if I say wait, in my brain, what I mean is there will be a time delay before you get what you think it is that you want, whether that be movement or access through a door or to be able to put your nose into your food bowl. So wait is a time delay. All right, so waiting at the door is a really good little one to practice. And what we're going to do here, first we introduce the idea. First we introduce the idea that not diving towards the door is a good idea. So we open the door a little bit, and if the pup holds back, I don't think you can even see my dog, so this is not a very good demonstration. Just move the video. Okay. Oops. Being a bit rubbish. I've gone and put one of those button things on the back of my phone, and I'd forgotten that that would affect it. So here's the door. We're going to open it a bit, but we're going to reward back there. Yeah? So here's the door. It opens a little bit, but we reward away from. Here's the door. Now she's already got the idea. So now I can say wait and throw the reward back there. And now we can go together through the door. Yeah? You can get the reward through there. Did you find it? Come on. All right. So again, if she moves towards the door, that's fine. I'm not going to get angry with her, but the reward is back there. There's no point moving towards the door. Okay, so we're going to wait. Good girl. So there's the reward over there, and then I can go through first. She's not being told that she has to stay. It's a time delay. You are going to be allowed through the door, but there's a time delay. Likewise, if we're talking about something like waiting for a food bowl, wait. The reward is going to be away from that bowl to begin with. Wait. So I'm rewarding her back there. Wait. So the bowl game that we did, do you remember the bowl game where we come down slightly? Is a really good way of teaching wait. Give me a thumbs up. Did we practice the bowl game? Yes, so that I know that I've definitely done it. I thought I had. All right. So if you've already got the bowl game starting to work and your dog understands it, this is a really good place to introduce wait. Okay, where can you see it? You can see it there. All right. So wait doesn't mean that you're not going to be allowed to have it. Wait means there's going to be a time delay. And what we need then, so that the dog knows that that time period is finished, is a release cue. Yeah, so the release cue for them for this situation is get it. And don't want her to eat the whole bowl full, so I'm going to remove it from her, which is a bit cruel and nasty of me. But yeah, she's getting old and her waistline's getting a bit too thick for her arthritis to carry. So we're being a bit rotten. Okay, so you can introduce weight as well if you've been doing your practice with your food in your hand. Yeah, and your dog has learned not to grab at the food. You can say wait. Yes. Wait. Yes. Wait. Yes. So obviously, again, it's also different from the leave, because I want leave to mean you're never going to get it. Whereas wait means you are going to get it, but there's going to be a time delay. You see the difference, and how it's important that what we've got inside our mind, what we think we're teaching the dog, we have to make sure that we're actually explaining it in a way that they're able to get it right. Because if we keep having an idea in our mind and then not explaining it very well to the dog, and then getting angry because they're not doing what we thought we taught them, we're being incredibly unfair, aren't we? All right. So I want you to have a go at this. So either pick a door or pick an item, food item or a toy, whichever you prefer. And what I want you to do is figure out how to explain to your dog that there's going to be a time delay. Now, remember to begin with, to make it really fair for puppies, make that time delay really short so that they're likely to get it right. If we ask a puppy to wait for 5 minutes, the chances are that they're going to break and they're going to get it wrong. And every time they get it wrong, they're practicing getting it wrong. So they're not learning what we think we're teaching. So remember, really short waits to begin with. And for some dogs, dogs who are very keen, we have to start with waits that are milliseconds, parts of a second. So when the dog takes a breath instead of moving forward into something. Beautiful. I can't see little Roxy, but I can see that you look like you're doing the right thing, Laura. And unfortunately, Tina, your video, as expected, is jumping all over the place. I hope you are doing okay. Again, what we're looking to reward is that stillness, that choice to be still. And the reward for waiting at the door is going to reinforce staying back from the door. So we're making it as easy as possible for the dog to get it right. Making it as easy as possible for them to practice what we do want.
We use wait already, when it's feeding time. I'm glitching. When it's feeding time, I use weights. When I'm measuring her food out, to put in a bowl, and she sits, and then I say, get it, and she goes.
And I think it is a very useful tool. It's a very useful cue to generalize into lots of different situations. You know, so wait, for example, could be a really good one for when you're putting on the harness, teaching them to stand still and wait. Yeah, so anywhere where there's going to be a time delay, where you need them to not get excited, not move themselves forward into situations, where you want them to learn to calm down and be still and patient, then I think teaching them that there's going to be this cue. And to be honest, cues are just sounds to give extra information. We teach them so that hopefully they start to recognize it. But I think the cue wait is a really useful one, so that, you know, if they get excited about going out for you with the walk and they're bouncing all over you and you've already taught them the cue wait, you can say wait while you're putting your coat on and while you're putting your shoes on. You know, while you're trying to reach down to them with the lead to clip the lead on, you can say wait. And if you've trained it correctly, wait means hold yourself back, be patient, just hang on a bit. There's a time delay. You don't need to panic. You're still going to get the reward. It's not a big deal. You just have to hang on a bit, be patient for a bit. And I do like, if we're getting it right and the dog's really starting to understand things properly, you start to see their body language get calmer, more relaxed. So little Roxy here, I can see her practicing, and she's little waggy tail, and she's like, and I'm not getting overexcited. I'm kind of just, yeah, this is fine. Nice and relaxed body language, not getting more and more stressy. And don't worry, Laura, if she's not understanding, try and make it easier. If you find that you're going through the stages and the dog just keeps getting it wrong, go back to where they were getting it right, and then slowly move yourself forward. Actually taking the time to do something in smaller stages in the long run is going to pay so much more. You're going to get a much easier relationship between you and the dog. Yeah. And I think what we do is humans is we get frustrated very easily. We get like we want things to move forward much quicker. So it's really important to school ourselves to take it really steady.
Yeah, I've spoke to my brother because I was like, is it me like expecting too much from her? Because like she's done like a really good walk one day and then the next day it's like fucking disaster. I said, is it my expectation that because she's done it once, that's it, it's going to happen all the time? And he was like, yeah, probably. You just need to like rein it back and don't think too much about it.
I think the thing is as well, these are living beings, you know, that behavior is flexible. It's going to change every single day. And the only way to make behavior predictable is to practice it the way that you would like it to be. And if the dog's not capable at any stage of providing you with the result that you want, it's because you haven't been able to practice it well enough and explain it well enough at that stage and then slowly move it on. Yeah, so if you find yourself nagging, then more often than not, it is that our expectations are beyond the dog's capability at that stage. Yeah, I've lost her. She's gone off view. I'm assuming she's gone out for a wee or something. I know, I'm sitting talking to myself because Tina's gone all still. And Roxy and Laura have left the screen. Hello, darling. I muted you because I didn't want the camera to keep backing away. That's it.
Sorry. Yeah, she's just gone out for a wee. And she's now, because we've got like a patio that we have a gate on. So when it's, because my grass gets really boggy, because when it's frosty, I try and let her have a bit of a run. But of course it's thawing out now and it's really muddy and I've got mud everywhere. So, and I was trying to stop her from going on the grass, but I didn't achieve it. So,
no, I spent part of my holiday last week cleaning my carpets with went and finally treated myself to a proper carpet washer. But yeah, they're a pain in the backside, aren't they? Anyone else got one of those? You have to clear the whole house of everything, and then it's wet for half a day and you can't put everything back, and it's 48 hours worth of one living room. There's no wonder it's taken me 6 months between cleans. Anyway, but then they're not cheap either. So I don't normally treat myself to things, but my carpet is now going on 25 years old, so it deserves it. And it does come up really, really nicely, to be honest. So it is worth the effort for that whole 10 minutes of clean carpet that I get between one clean and the next one. I put Facebook on my private page, so you may not have seen it, but I did a before and after photo, but the after photo I forgot to take before I'd let the dogs in the room again. So the after photo was about 10 or 15 minutes later, and it already looked like, you know, they'd already got their bones out of the toy box and they'd already chewed them all up, and there's bits of bone and bits of toy, and you think to yourself, well, what's the point? My mum's got a really good saying. She had 4 kids, all under the age of 5 at one point. I was 4.5 when my little sister, my youngest sister, was born. So she had 4 kids, all under the age of 5. And she said, I drove myself absolutely batty trying to keep the house clean. And I know that as a result, I didn't play or entertain you lot as tiny children as much as I should have done. She said, I'd rather come into your house with your dogs and see it looking lived in and happy than see it looking immaculate. And I thought, oh, that's really sweet.
yeah, I am learning to surrender to mud, paw prints, and just dirt everywhere. I am surrendering more so than being like, oh my God, my cupboard's a mess.
No, it is like 10 minutes between one clean and the next, you know. Well, there's no toys and there's no paw prints and there's no fur, and you know, that 10 whole minutes where you can just go, oh, my house is so lovely, and then they all come back in again and you're like, yeah, all right. And Twiggy's like a Jack Russell. Her fur is kind of hard and straight. She doesn't have a fluffy undercoat. So her fur, as soon as it gets on the furniture, it kind of weaves itself in. And the vacuum cleaner, as much as I always get the best doggy vacuum cleaners as I can get, you know, they kind of go, oh, there's no way you can get this one out. You know, so it's hours worth of, oh God, rubber brushes and all sorts of sticky rollers and things to try and get the fur back off the sofas. So, you know, it's living with dogs is wonderful. So what, and I know I moan on about it, don't I? But I'm doing what I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real because it's not easy living with dogs. But what is the benefit? Nobody else, no other human is going to love you the way that a dog is going to do. Then no other being is going to surrender themselves to you in the same way that a dog will. You know, that complete just love, which is they don't expect anything of us. They just love us anyway. So even if you haven't brushed your hair, you know, even if you haven't cleaned your teeth, even if you are in a grumpy mood, your dog's still there. Your dog still wants to spend time with you. And, you know, that's worth all the dirt and mud and fur and whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to go unless anybody's got anything they want to ask me before we go. This is your last one with me, isn't it? I know it was a bit weird with the Christmas break.
One thing I wanted, I don't know if you can hear me okay. We've had a bit of a breakthrough with, you know, the early mornings. Oh, I don't know if I froze.
I can hear you.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit. Why don't you type it in the
A weekend. Oh.
freezing a bit.
Ah! I'll pop it on the group chat.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, don't forget try other groups for a bit. Yeah, so we will keep the group open for a little bit, but then it's gonna be on the Facebook group. So you've got the WhatsApp chat is going to be open for a little bit, but pretty soon Dawn will stop that bit, and then it's going to be you're available through the Facebook group to ask us questions. And obviously, if when you lose that, which I think you get 3 months worth of free access to the training group bits. Once you lose that, unless you sign up with us for more courses, once you lose that, you can still message us via little tags and ask questions. And if it's not something that's too complicated, I will give out free advice on there or point you in the direction of free bits that are on the internet. But you know, my favorite thing would be if people stuck with us and kept coming back, and then I can watch the puppies grow into the people that they're meant to be in the future. But yeah, I'm not a hard seller, so if you're going to continue training and you don't really want to train with me, we do have other local private trainers that we're happy to recommend. So if you wanted to go and have a dot around and feel what it's like training with other people, then that's fine as well. And I've got people I'm happy to recommend for you to go to. But you know, we are available, so do use the services, do keep in touch, because as well as anything else, I like to watch the puppies grow up. You know, once somebody's been in my classes, whether it be in real life or as it has been on this occasion in Zoom, they're my puppies. You know, I feel responsible for them. I feel responsible for their futures. Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've had a good time and you feel like you've learned and you felt supported in spite of the weirdness of the online thing. And I'll say thank you very much for choosing us and choosing Little Tikes. Thank you. So goodbye. See you later.